Chromosomes, little strands of nucleic acids and proteins, are the fundamental genetic instructions that tell us who we are at birth. Most people are born with 46 chromosomes, but each year in the United States, about 6,000 people are born with an extra chromosome, making them a person with Down syndrome. If you've ever encountered someone with Down syndrome, you know that they are some of the kindest, most joyful people you will ever meet. They truly have something extra. My name is Lisa Nichols, and for 30 years, I have been both the CEO of Technology Partners and the mother to Allie. Allie has something extra in every sense of the word. I have been blessed to be by her side as she impacts everyone she meets. Through these two important roles as CEO and mother to Allie, I have witnessed countless life lessons that have fundamentally changed the way I look at the world. While you may not have an extra chromosome, every leader has something extra that defines who you are. Join me as I explore the something extra in leaders from all walks of life and discover how that difference in each of them has made a difference in their companies, their families, their communities, and in themselves. If you like this episode today, please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and leave us a 5-star rating. I'm thrilled to have Dr. Ryan Rogers and Dr. Kendall Brune on the show today. Dr. Rogers is the president and CEO, and Dr. Brune is the chairman of Arise Veteran Foundation. Well, guys, welcome to the Something Extra podcast. Dr. Brune and Dr. Rogers, I'm so delighted that we can make this happen today, especially with everyone's crazy schedules.
This is just a blessing. We can't wait to participate, Lisa.
Yes. Well, Kendall, you and I have known each other for 20 plus years. And you know what? We have our something extra daughters.
We do.
For that, don't we?
Yeah.
Your Paige, my Allie, and if it had not been for these amazing ladies, there is a possibility we would not know one another. So I'm so grateful.
Yeah, most of the time, people know me Dr. B when I'm with students and research, but my best title is Paige's dad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel the same way. Well, I was just thinking about it, and seriously, we probably could do a whole episode on just what these amazing young ladies have taught us, right, Kendall?
Follow up with Sherry on that presentation, that she's doing with for the girls.
I know. I'm excited about that. And of course, one person, one awesome person, and they introduce you to another. Yeah. So Dr. Rogers, that's how I met you, is through Kendall. And so I'm just really impressed with what you're doing with Arise. And we're going to really dig into that. I have a lot of questions, though, that I want to talk about before we go there. Good. Well, Dr. Rogers, I want to start with you because upon high school graduation, you joined the Army. And I wanted to ask you, because we didn't get to talk about this before, who or what inspired you to do that?
So honestly, I think a lot of it had to come and was closely associated with my grandmother and telling me a lot of the stories of my great-grandfather. He was on one of the ships that sunk in Pearl Harbor. He wasn't on the ship. They were on shore leave when it happened, but he was on one of the ships when they were attacked. So just hearing her detail some of the stories that were passed down really kind of, put a little passion in me to be very intrigued by what happens within the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad was a Marine. My father-in-law was a sergeant in the Army. My uncle was a Green Beret. And my dad always would say, because my dad was fairly young when he entered into the military as well, and he always would say, the military will turn a young man into a man quicker than anything.
Very quickly. Mm-hmm.
Quicker than anything. And it's funny because there were just so many things about my dad that carried forward. Like Greg would say, his dad would be like, don't clean your room. He said, I'm going to police the area.
Yeah.
And
that's some pressure.
Yeah, it was pressure, Kendall, because Greg's like, he would do the white glove test, on that. And then my dad was funny because if you were 15 minutes early, you were late.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it was just, yeah, there were certain characteristics that just definitely carried forward. Well, I know that you served in Iraq to support Operation Iraqi Freedom, and then you were injured. So, can you just tell our listeners a little bit about that transition, if you will, from the military to civilian life? Because I think that probably has informed a lot of what you're trying to do today and what you've done with veterans.
It is. And I would like to say that I was successful at it, but that would not be truthful. I failed miserably. And it wasn't because of lack of grit or determination or even will for that matter. It was just a really kind of a lack of understanding of really kind of what happened, what was going on with me. And then, the treatment that I sought afterwards was not conducive to really putting me into forward projection motion. It just wasn't. Like it nearly killed me. So I mean, the transition, I didn't really understand what was going on, like why I was experiencing a lot of the things that I did. And it wasn't actually until many years after the fact, and I became really sick and actually even became suicidal because of my sickness, because I wasn't able to work, because I was utilizing work as one of my coping mechanisms. I wasn't violent, I wasn't a raging alcoholic or anything like that, but I was on 22 different medications. I was on 7 narcotics and 3 psychotropics. And that was the best that they had to offer me. That was their solution to what was ailing me. And it wasn't until I met this amazing counselor at the vet center, who was also a combat veteran. Wes Shockley was his name. And he helped me like pinpoint so many different things. Like, oh, well, yeah, the reason why you're, responding this way is because of what happened in the military and the training. He was able to make so many connections for me that was never made before. And then I can actually step back and go, oh, wait a minute. Now I can understand why I'm experiencing life after the military the way that I am experiencing it, and make some adjustments. I didn't know how to make those adjustments before. The adjustments that I did make, they weren't necessarily positive adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that it's a challenge for so many. I mean, on multiple fronts. I mean, maybe if you didn't even have any kind of PTSD or that, I mean, it's just translating what you did in the military to civilian life. It's just difficult. And that's what you guys are trying to, that's what you are, not just trying, but you've served a lot of veterans, 75,000 veterans so far. But enter Dr. B. Or Obi-Wan or
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi, old man, whatever you want to call it. But
hence the beard now.
Yeah, hence the beard. I think you two met, Dr. Rogers, when you started going to, you went to St. Louis Christian College, and Dr. B, I think you were either the president or the director of development, some vice president of development there.
Yeah. Hey, you. Yeah. I was the administrator for the college and then kind of interim president. We had a presidential transition team. And so I pretty much did everything from cut to grass to recruit the students. So, which is very typical for a Bible college.
Sure. Well, you guys met there, and Dr. Rogers, you went on to get your bachelor's in human resources, an MBA, a doctorate, and I think that you two struck up a kindred relationship, and I think Dr. B was a big part of your journey after that,
Totally
right, Dr.
Totally
Rogers?
Yeah, he was. I settled into a very simplistic kind of, life. I was perfectly okay with the thought process that I was a grunt, and I was happy with that. No, I mean, not to say that there was anything wrong with it, because I still kind of self-identify as a grunt. I just do. Yeah, I just happen to have, the most expensive letters that I've ever paid for in front of my name.
Yeah. I'll hire deeper debt.
But see, the thing is, though, is I know that I would have not gotten to the point to where I'm at now, and this platform of where I've been able to get to, had it not been for Dr. B's consistent, like hey, just keep moving forward. Hey, what about this? Keep trying this. It was a very positive mentor just to keep me going and to keep me moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast on that and mentorship because it's so important. But Kendall, you've got a bachelor's in healthcare administration, an MBA, and a PhD in healthcare admin. You've held, and we're not going to go into all of these, but you have held so many leadership positions. I remember at one time, Kendall, years ago, meeting you or talking with you, and I said, "Well, how many companies are you involved in right now?" And you go, "Oh, about 19." And I'm like, "What?" It was
Yeah,
crazy. But
I've slowed down. It's only 12 now.
it's only 12 now. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think you maybe sleep 3 hours a night. But yeah, I mean, you've had positions across senior care, healthcare, veteran support. Can you tell me what out of all of those, what are some of the common leadership principles that you have carried forward no matter what industry or what organization you're serving in?
Well, I think my root is I'm an educator. So the mentoring part is kind of a natural component. When Sherry and I, as you know, we were young parents moving to Mizzou to go to school full time. Stuart was just 14 months. And so I ended up writing a grant as the month that I got at Mizzou to develop a student parent center. And that was basically in partnership with the School of Medicine and the School of Education to support students that were single parents or young parents. And so I remember, never will forget, sitting in the provost's office because we were trying to use an old building that was going to be torn down for a parking garage, which that's what it is today. And I said, "Well, how long is it going to take to build that?" And he said, 3 years. And I said, "Well, good. So we can use it for a year or two." And he just laughed, and they said yes. Well, we ended up getting the grant, and we had 90 kids right off the bat. And so they had no idea. But the same thing happened, with Ryan and I when he started at St. Louis Christian College. And it really was his wife that applied and came to school. And then Ryan ended up joining the evening program that was called AIM, which was perfect for him, Adults in Ministry. And they had kids. They were 3 little kids. And so it's much different as a parent. You don't have time to waste. Time management is critical.
Yes.
Because you've got little kids and they got to get places, and you got babysitters, and you got to make money because you still got to pay bills. And so it's a very complicated process. I don't know any different, Lisa. That's just the way we work. Sherry and I, young couple. And so I always look for mentoring. How do I mentor? Ryan was right there. St. Louis Christian College it was originally built in 1956. We had 28 veterans that were going to school, and it was not handicap accessible. There was nothing about the college that was handicap accessible. So literally, Ryan was a carpenter, and he literally told me, "I got this. We can do this." And so we created a scholarship program that was MAP, Ministry Advancement Program. And it was, how do we create a map? And that's really a lot like leadership is, how do we create a map from where we're going to go start here and we're going to end up here? And it's what are those steps in between? And Ryan, as most vets, is like, okay, I got a whiteboard. Here's what we're going to do. And started doing that. And I only stepped in his way one time. And being a sergeant, he stepped and said, "I got this, sir." And that was to me saying, "Don't get in my way." You gave me the orders. I know my orders, and we'll get there. And it was a great relationship.
Love that. Oh my goodness. Bias toward action. Tell me what you need, right? And I will put the plan together. I love it.
Plan, then act.
Uh-huh. I know too that you've spent a big part of your career. I've talked about this a lot, working with 38 different tribes, 132 different nations through tribal health initiatives. What have you seen, Kendall, the biggest healthcare challenges in the indigenous communities today?
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Mm.
Officially, what I talk about is the social
Just a few?
disparities of health. And so that is just really chronic care issues from long term unresolved trauma. I mean, and that's the same
Hmm.
challenges that veterans face is just unresolved trauma. How do I deal with this? Where we're doing, and whether native or whether veteran, you're taught to bury it, just march on, soldier. You know, we've got to do so. You figure out a way to mask it and bury it
Mhm.
down, and it becomes an issue when you uncover it.
Mhm.
And so the blessing I've had is that my grandfather, who was instrumental in starting St. Louis Christian College, Ryan got to meet him and get to know him. Roy Williams was Chickasaw and had ran away from home at 14. And you know the story, kicked off the train in St. Louis. So that's how we got here. And so I got to introduce him to the tribe, take him down there, kind of fun. And that started uncovering stuff. And a lot of it I didn't know, the trauma that existed, because he buried it. And it's the same with Ryan. You start peeling that onion, and it's like you take one piece at a time. Um, I can tell you, Lisa, after reading and facilitating with Ryan's book being published, if I'd have known everything that he faced, I would have treated him differently.
Mm.
And that wouldn't have been good for our relationship because I would have been much more medical and not just befriending.
A friend,
Yeah,
right?
being a friend and saying, how can we do this? And
Hmm.
at that time we met, we were just both young parents. And
Yeah.
I had a goal to redo the campus and to build it, which we did become the fastest growing Bible college in the United States with that. But it was because we were building, we were redoing things. And so that was the beauty of it. It was pretty simple. We
Hmm.
created discipleship groups, which were really a 5 individual team. And we took a senior classman or our teacher to help lead that team, and then 4 underclassmen, and we just kept going. We just kept going, kept going.
That is, I mean, it's really and truly, you're right. It is simple,
Very
but
Yeah,
simple.
it worked, right? And I love what you said. We were rebuilding. I think Kendall, I mean, we have to always have that kind of mindset, right? What worked before, we've always done it this way, may
yeah,
not work for the future. We need to constantly be evaluating our lives. Are we on track or not? Is our organization on track? Well, I want to focus a little bit more on leadership, and then we're going to get into what you guys are doing today with the Rise. But I'm going to open up these questions to both of you, and whoever wants to answer, I'm good with it. But if you had to say what is the most important leadership lesson that you've learned in your life, what would it be? Either one of you.
Well, for me, I would say it's like never take anything for granted. Meaning, like, you'd be surprised if you have a willingness to learn on where you can learn the most valuable information from. There's sometimes when you become a senior executive and a senior leader, and the interactions that you have with the mainline staff become very, very limited. But the reality of it is that you should value like every single bit of the information you're getting, because they're the ones that are literally down in the trenches per se and can provide the most valuable information, because what leaders have a tendency to do is leaders have a tendency to filter as it goes up. So the telephone game, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's happening here, and by the time it gets to the command, it's like, wait, that's not what I said. That's not what the origination of the original message was. So getting it firsthand, and be prepared to face some things that you may not necessarily find flattering.
Right. I was going to say there may be some things that you learn that you're not that excited about, right? But you'd rather have the truth,
Yeah,
right?
and the other part is like, okay, is there validity? Having enough, personal integrity to say, hey, is what they're saying, does it have validity? Is it something that me as a leader is causing to happen within in the environment that I'm responsible for? Is that my doing? Or do I have a part to play in this? And I mean, the question is, the answer is always yes. I always have a part to play in that. But I want to make a positive influence in that and not a negative. So what can I do in order to facilitate that change?
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Well, Kendall, let me ask you this one. What surprised you the most about being a leader?
People expect you to have all the answers.
But you're Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I know. Yeah, I think really just humility is trying to have that humility and lead by example. So you've got to really show that, hey, I grew up in the same way you did.
Mm-hmm.
At least I do. I don't like to have be on a high horse, so to speak, and just really kind of. And I'm from the service industry, so from healthcare, I don't want to. They always call it the white coat issue, and come in, the doctor's got a white coat, and all of a sudden, patients are like, "Oh, you got to give me the answers." I don't. I'm investigating. I'm a scientist, so I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
good.
for us, I always just kind of say, well, we're gonna. Yes, I have a lot of experience. I've had a lot of water under this bridge, so maybe I can share some of that. But I kind of do it not as a dictatorial; it's just sharing. When we did this, this is what happened. Is it going to work when I apply it? Let's measure it, and that's kind of where we're always ticking and tacking. Kind of like sailing. We're always kind of going back and forth, making adjustments. And that's for me. My style has been very successful.
Mm-hmm. I would say that is the truth. What about Dr. Rogers? I'll ask you this one. Is there a piece of leadership advice? It could even be from Obi-Wan over here that you have received over the years that you carry with you. Piece of leadership advice.
Perseverance.
Mm.
Perseverance, along with, if you don't know the answer, find it. Like, search for it. Surround yourself with individuals who are smarter than you, and who are going places that you want to be and you want to eventually obtain.
Mm-hmm. That's good. All right. So, Dr. B, I'm going to ask you this one. And I know the answer to this because I know you and Sherry well. But when you're faced with impossible challenges, where do you go for strength?
No, to our Creator, yeah, to God. Our faith is really grounding together, and we share that among all of our friends and family, as you know. That's where we kind of start. It's not always just within Christian faith. We share that within our girlfriends group. They're varied backgrounds, different history. But one thing I learned in missionary work is you don't beat them over the head with just your faith. I will share with you how my walk came about and the personal relationship, but I want them to share too. And so it just gives that opportunity for us to be grounded. And Sherry and I've had that many times, you know, um, especially with our girls, because there are a lot of challenges and opportunities. I didn't say difficulties. I just said challenges and opportunities. Because like Ryan said, it's perseverance.
Yes.
And in the tribes, we call it resilient instead of resilient. RAZ, like reservation. You have to be always pressing, always pursuing. And failure is not an option. It's just a nagging possibility that keeps me straight.
Yes. Oh, I so agree. I so agree. Yeah, you got to have something, and it can be different for different people, but as you all, we share the same faith, and there's got to be an anchor there. And I always go back. There is there, I think it's Jeremiah 33:3. I think. Don't quote me on that, but where it says, "You will show me things that I do not know." And my goodness, Greg and I run into things all the time, weekly in our business. We're like, wow, we've never encountered this one before. But, going to the Lord in prayer and asking Him to show us the things that we do not know and help guide us, right? So I could not agree more with that. Well, listen, guys, we do need to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with Dr. Brune and Dr. Rogers on the Something Extra podcast.
In business, the tendency is to seek out partners who are bigger, faster, stronger. When it comes to IT, you should be looking for smarter, faster, better. That's just what you'll find with the talented technologists at Technology Partners. Our experts develop custom solutions to tackle your most complex challenges, all to simplify your processes in the smartest, most efficient way possible. The time to be swift and nimble starts now. Go to technologypartners.net/solutions and see what's possible.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with my friends, Dr. Brune and Dr. Rogers. I've loved our conversation so far, guys, but I really want to pivot, and I want to talk about what you're doing today with Arise. And you both have done a lot with veterans, mental health, vocational rehabilitation. Kendall, I remember years ago, when you were building community gardens, or you were helping the veterans build community gardens. I know we had talked years ago about the partnership with Southwest Airlines and taking the leather and helping not just the tribes, but the veterans repurpose that leather for other things. I mean, you both have done this for a long time. Let me ask you, so Dr. Rogers, how did your personal influence, because we talked about this, your transition and that trauma, how has that really influenced what you're doing today? And kind of, it's almost like a calling on your life, I would say.
Oh, 100% is a calling. Yeah. I have never been more assured of like where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing in my life than I have in doing this. It's amazing how, God has taken some of the things that have happened in my life and created this wonderful tapestry, and how it can be utilized to help so many others. And I have often said, and it's really hard to say this, is like that if what I have gone through and experienced is able to help someone else so they don't have to go through the same things, then here comes the difficult part. Then it was worth it. Then it was worth what I had to struggle through so that someone else doesn't have to do the same thing.
That's beautiful. It's true. There is a quote that I absolutely love by Morgan Nichols. And her quote is, and I'm probably not going to get it exactly right, but you'll get the gist of it. Don't be afraid to talk about how you climb that mountain, because it will become someone else's survival kit.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what is like shared a lot. I share a lot in the book that I've hopefully be out in June. I share a lot of my personal story within that. And that's even difficult because there's a level of transparency that is like, I'm sharing some not flattering moments of my life and choices and decisions that it's like, people could totally and completely judge me for, some of the decisions that I made. I don't care. You want to judge, go for it. That's on you. That's not, and then I'll follow it up with this book's not really for you then. This book is for those who are really seeking and looking for a different way, a different solution than what's been provided to them or what they even know that exists for them.
Right. But without that vulnerability, Dr. Rogers, it's really hard for people to connect with you.
Yeah.
And I know that is the purpose for you sharing those things, is that you, as that book goes forth and people are reading that, they can identify, wow, he went through that too, right?
I can relate.
And you can relate to it, right? So it's so important.
Yeah, we say if you've taken care of, you take care of veterans, great. If you take care of a veteran, that means you've taken care of a veteran. They all have a different experience. They all have different ways of being brought up. So you have different childhood experiences. So all of that plays into that social DNA, and how do you respond to issues? And so
Mhm.
we don't take a blanket or a badge of saying, yeah, I've supported a lot of veterans. I know exactly what to do.
No.
I run the other way when somebody acts like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I know that, and you did yourself, Dr. Rogers, and you even admitted there were suicidal kind of thoughts. And yeah, we won't go any further than that. I don't know if there was anything manifested there, but we know for a fact that so many veterans struggle with this, right? So can you just tell us what are some of those warning signs that you guys have seen that maybe a veteran is struggling with some mental health?
So I think a lot of it has to do with behaviors. And especially if there is maybe some changes in behaviors. Let's say, for example, you have an individual who is always kind of downtrodden or depressed, and then suddenly there is a shift, and then, oh, they're happy-go-lucky. You would think that that would be a positive thing, right? But sometimes that is an indication that the individual is that, like, hey, all of these burdens and all of these things that I've been, dealing with for so long and I've never had an outlet, suddenly now that I've decided that, hey, I'm going to end it, now I feel so much, the burden is lifted. When in reality it's not. It's just kind of a temporary reprieve because you think you have the solution. But here's another crazy thing to think about too, is like so they interviewed the individuals that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and had survived. And they asked them, okay, what went through your mind as soon as you let go? And everyone said the same thing: regret. I shouldn't have done it. Like, yeah, because life is precious. And it's hard because there's so many things that we are dealing with internally, just individually. And we often feel like many times that we can't really share it, or we can't really have those conversations because of the stigma that's associated with mental health. I mean, I literally just had this conversation this morning, or it was yesterday. I said, look, let me explain something to you that's very easy to kind of analogize. If I came in and I had a cast on my arm, and you'd visibly see that I have a cast, there's no reservation on having a conversation about, hey, what happened to you? I can see that you broke your arm, or that your arm is in a cast. Let's talk about really what happened to you physically. But whenever we have that conversation, we broach to something of like something that I'm struggling with internally or mentally, immediately it becomes super, super uncomfortable. And which it shouldn't. It should, like, these should be things and conversations that we should be able to have across the board, and we would not have the issues that we do if that was the case.
Yeah. Yes. But Kendall, were you going to say something about that?
Well, no, it's very true. Is that when you have a physical injury, you can see it. You instantly, they'll pull out a chair, they'll move something so that you can make accommodations for you. But if it's mental health, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do or what the issue is, So it is an invisible issue. And we run into that, Lisa, with our girls, having had Down syndrome, they can see that there's a disability. But Lord help the ones that don't. They have that physical side, and they're challenged. So it crosses a lot of different pathways. But I think the really aspect with Ryan is just getting that first confidence to share and to have a safe zone. And so what we've discovered with veterans is getting in a common space where they can share, kind of relate to somebody, or instantly, Ryan will get with a vet and he'll say, "Oh, I was in Fallujah," and they go, "Oh, I was," and they start sharing, and then they know exactly what battles they went through. They know how rough it was or what they were doing. because they've been through that war. And so that's what we really tried to facilitate. And it's really not all about, we own and operate facilities. It's just not about our facilities, because most of our connections always been out, is
Mm-hmm.
working with other groups, and the group will call and we'll say, how can we help? And how do we help serve you? Whether it's getting the leather kits to their VA hospital, to their rec center, to the VFW halls, how do we help? Food
Mm-hmm.
drives, getting food. It really just is a way to open that door so we can start talking about. Because you never know when you're going to have a tragedy and somebody might end up committing suicide or causing harm to somebody else that might be in their way. And that's what we're trying to avoid, the ultimate
Mm-hmm.
injury.
Right. Well, I mean, you've said so much there that's so important. I think one of the things I just heard, it's just about human connection and community, and maybe you yourself have not struggled with mental, but be aware, right? I mean, we can all be aware of what people might be going through, and it's just the human connection, finding those common points of interest to start a conversation. And yeah, there's so much good there that you guys have shared. Well, let's move into Arise, because this is what you guys are doing today. Kendall, I know you're the board chair. Dr. Rogers, you're the president CEO. Tell me the mission of Arise Veterans Foundation.
Well, ours is really, a mission is to serve. We have a simple phrase: if we send them, we must mend them. That's kind of an easy vision statement for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we've sent them out to defend our country, defend others in need, then we have to take care of them once they come back. That's very simple. Really hard to do.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
And so we focus on the vocational rehabilitation of veterans where they're at, and providing those opportunities. And what we've done with Ryan, is that he's gone from a board position, because really Arise was founded with Ryan Rogers and John Hiltz, Army and Marine, that were at St. Louis Christian College. And as we started a 45-bed mental health facility, it's like, guys, this is really a great opportunity for us to replicate what we're trying to do. And so in 2016, we finally got that all together and created a supportive board. So I'm Chickasaw, Ryan's Cherokee, John Hiltz is Penobscot. And so there was a common entrance of being Native American. And so we started looking, and there really wasn't an American Indian veteran organization that focused on that area of vocational rehabilitation and healing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where it started creating it. And then with Ryan now, is getting Arise from a volunteer organization that we write grants and we provide support and services to actually an operational organization. And that's where Ryan's focus is now. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Ryan
we
helps
went
support.
from providing support to other organizations that supported veterans, and now we're moving to be the direct provider of those services. And honestly, a lot of it had to do with not necessarily trial and error. That's not really the right word that I'm looking for, but it was just identifying a need. And as soon as we identified a need, it's like, hey, wait, we should add this, or we should do this, because this provides this need for these 5 veterans. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
literally in that simplest form. We have these 5 veterans that need this. Let's add this. Let's do this. Let's find a way that we can provide this service. I mean, and then it suddenly blossomed into something that was much more bigger than we could sustain, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the all volunteer status is what we were doing. So we had to do something different.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth at all, but there are other veteran support organizations out there, but I think that what really sets you guys apart is your holistic view, right? It's not just one aspect. I mean, it's holistically that you guys are, really trying to bring to bear there.
Yeah, we have a whole health model, and it is really kind of 4 quadrants of that medicine wheel, and it's mind, body, spirit, and kinship, and is that relationship. And so what we've facilitated in it's taking that whole wheel and having Ryan dump all of the veteran experiences that he's had working for different veteran organizations and then put that into a medicine wheel. And so that has part of his book, part of it then is flushing that out and then getting him to audiences and really, with like your show and work with technology partners is just getting it out to the corporations because with like ADM, the big ag company, with Bayer, with Boeing, is how do we help you through like a almost employee assistance provide that support and services for your individuals, so that way they can leave a productive life and can keep contributing, because today we're not a drafted military. It's not 18, 19.
Right.
They're like Ryan, who came to me and I'm at the end of my 30s. I've got 3 kids. I can't just stop. I can't wait. I got to keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that you guys had a recent partnership with the National Veterans Business Development Council. How has this helped expand the mission of Arise?
Well, so, we're always about empowering. And sometimes for veterans, it's like, hey, help me get a better, working job, or help me become successful in a business. Well, with this partnership, it helps them to either have the designation of the, service disabled veteran-owned small business, which opens up a lot of opportunities for them. But then also too, like on so that's an avenue in which we could kind of, maneuver them into. And we're not the subject matter experts when it comes to that. So rather than us trying to take on and wear every single hat at the same time, we find entities and organizations who are not just providing a service, because that is like the antithesis of me. It's like, just because you provide a service doesn't mean that I'm going to give you the referral. I want you to provide an exceptional service, a service that these individuals need, warrant, and are justified in having. So with them, it has been they're going to walk you through it. And I remember like when I was doing it for one of the businesses, I had a very long conversation with one of the, because I'm one who likes to test it out first before I assign my veterans to, go through it. Because I understand I'm looking for things. I'm looking for, okay, is this going to be a hurt or a hang up for someone that's walking through this? Or is this going to be a true benefit for them? So looking at it from that mindset as I'm going through this process, it was phenomenal. Like, I have to say that it was a very, very positive experience with that. And I know that this is going to be a key piece to helping them be successful with it. And we would provide some of the, the business coaching too. I mean, it's just kind of our background.
I love that, Dr. Rogers, that you actually went through it too. It's kind of, we call it drinking your own champagne.
Yeah.
So you went through it first, right? So that you can truly understand, number one, is this worthwhile for them to invest their time in? And then just understanding what they're going through as they're going through that process. So I love that you did that.
And I don't tell them that's the purpose and why I'm doing it, because then they would treat me very different. So oftentimes I just go in as just like a vet, and I won't even acknowledge who I am. And just like, hey, I'm going through this process. Let me, identify and see what it would really truly feel like had it not been, the position that I hold. What's this going to feel like for another person that's just walking through?
Yeah. Dr. B, were you going to say something?
Yeah, with the tribes, it's called Native Ways of Knowing and Learning. And that's kind of like on the job training. And so that's the first things the tribes will ask me is, do you use this, Dr. B? And if I say no, then I'm shot. If I can say, yes, this is what we use and I've used it in my facilities and you can come see it, then they're like, okay, that sounds great. And so it's that, like Ryan said, he's not going to give anything to his vets that he hadn't done himself.
Yeah. It's more caught than taught, right?
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, I was just laughing to myself, thinking it's kind of like telling your kids, eat your peas.
That's right.
but then they never see anything green, and really, Mom? Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, can we just camp out here for a minute? Because I know we've talked about this a little bit, but quite a lot actually, but that faith is integral to both of your lives. But this holistic approach that you guys are doing with the Rise, what have you guys learned about, why do you believe that spirituality, faith, whatever you subscribe to is overlooked sometime in healthcare, holistic health for people? Why do you think that it is? And, how can maybe medical professionals integrate that more into the patient care?
Well, I think that it kind of got labeled as voodoo. It's just magic. It's almost like the mental health diagnosis. You can't see it, so therefore you don't know how to approach it. And so for us, it's grounding. It's that anchor that we have is that there's hope, there's promise for more, and so we believe that in our core. And
Mhm.
so it doesn't mean it's going to be without error. It's going to be without judgment. It's going to be none of that is true. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. There's going to be challenges and opportunities, but we have to keep being persistent and keep pressing on. And so that's his. And I know Moses didn't want to walk for 40 years before.
It wasn't something that he was like, sign me up for that, right, Kendall? Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I could just see, Ryan was like Caleb. I can take that hill right now. Let's go get it. And it was 40 years later, and he's still going, okay, I'm ready. I can take it. I'm 80 now, but that's okay. I can take it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's where our faith kind of grounds in it. And
well, I think that's why it's called faith.
yeah.
Right? It is faith because you are trusting in something that you don't see, but then, you know the effects of it in your life. And I just think,
And that's the thing for us within Indian country. The spirit world is allowed to be talked about. And so that's why I said on our balance of our wheel, it's mind, body, spirit, and kinship. Is that how that relationship is? And so for us, it just gets an anchoring point, and we kind of build on that.
mm-hmm.
And it could be that you're mad at God. I mean, quite frankly, you've been through a lot of moral injury, and you have to say, it's all right. You can be mad at God.
Yeah.
Just
He's
scream.
not afraid of that.
No.
Can't argue. No, you think he hasn't heard that?
Right.
And that is a very, very, very difficult question that I've faced a lot. And it's a very valid question, especially for individuals who've experienced a lot of trauma. They ask a very fundamental question. If God is an all-loving and all-knowing God, then where was he when I experienced this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a question that you can answer just right off the cuff. It comes a lot through relationship building and then showing the love of the Father through the actions and the things that you do. You can tie it back to like even when during the creation, it said, God said to Adam, it's not good for man to live alone. It's not good for man. We were created to be communal. We were created to be, together. And then I go back to morality. Well, where did morality come from? Where did the sense of right and wrong come from? For those who are unbelievers, you can even, kind of shift it back and say, let's just look at this from an anthropological standpoint. You cannot find a society throughout history that does not have some type of moral belief system. You will never find it because it doesn't exist. Every single society, culture, tribe has a moral belief system. They have a moral makeup. Well, where did that come from? Why do all of these, tribes or individual families or people groups that never had interaction have that one thread in common?
Mm-hmm.
If they have that one thread in common, that tells you that it was placed in you by something that's above you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, let me ask you this, and then we're going to talk about something extra. Kendall, you've written several books, several books. People can go look up your books. Dr. Rogers, I know you've got your book. You've mentioned it. It's coming out hopefully June, right? It's called A
Correct.
New Mission.
Yes.
And
I'm working
unpack.
on another one. I got
What?
to push him for number 2.
Oh, he hasn't even finished number 1, and you're pushing him
Well,
for number 2.
I'm just waiting for the publishing that right now. It's all written, it's edited and everything. I'm just going through that process now.
Yeah. That's why we're supposed to live in community. We're pushing each other to new heights and get going on that second book there, Dr. Rogers. But it's called A New Mission and Unpacking the Military Mindset. I love that. Building a Stronger Life After Service. And not to give it away, I want people to go get your book. Go get your book. It'll be on Amazon, I'm sure. Can you, like, building a stronger life after service, can you give us just a couple little suggestions from the book that you talk about?
The reality of it is that mindset matters. You're not broken. You've been trained to think, act, know, do, be, and react a very specific way. And there is a different way that you can run parallel with that training, but you just need to add a couple of more tools in the tool chest to be able to do it successfully, to where you don't struggle as much.
Yeah, I love that. Well, gentlemen, this is called Something Extra. I have to ask you, what do you believe is the something extra that every leader needs? Obi-Wan, you want to go first?
That you have to not only have faith in God, but faith in yourself and faith in your fellow man. And so, our woman. So it's just that as Brian just shared, you're not broken. It's that you've got to be repurposed. And that's what we really kind of work on that basis. But I believe in people. I know my daughter Paige. I'm a people believer, Dad. Yeah, you are. And that's the critical piece. I will not give up on Ryan, and I keep pushing. In some aspects, it's kind of like a tormentor. It's just that I will keep working with him to get there, because there's such a great message there. And yes, he'll say, I'm a grunt. Absolutely, you are. And how does a grunt get to his next destination? One step at a time. Keep putting that foot in front of the other. And so you constantly have to keep working.
I love that. A people believer.
People believer.
I've never had anybody say that before. A people believer.
That's from Paige.
But I'm stealing it. Tell Paige I'm stealing that from her. Dr. Rogers, how about you?
See, like, he stole it. Like, I was literally going there. And I'm not being like a cliche. I'm being 100% honest. It's like people. I believe in people. Like, God believed in us. I mean, so if God can believe in us, why can't I believe in my fellow man? And, the reality of it is that once you come to the acceptance that, okay, for me, my life scripture is 1 Corinthians 15:58. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work for the Lord. You know that everything you do for him is worthwhile. I don't serve my fellow man for the sake of serving fellow man. I serve fellow man because that is what I've been edicted to do. That is my calling to do it. So I can't go wrong, even if what I give is not reciprocated. That's okay. I'm building people. And that's truly what matters. At the end of the day, I could build an empire. I could. Mm-hmm. But, okay, empires come and go. Mm-hmm. But what you do is long-lasting, what you build within people. That's what matters.
Could not agree more. Well, I always say about building organizations, but what are organizations?
But people.
People,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
right.
all about people at the end of the day. And I'll just go back to the two greatest scriptures, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two greatest scriptures. So if we do those things, gentlemen, we can lay our head on the pillow at night knowing that we did what we were supposed to do. So I have absolutely loved this time with the two of you. I thank you so much for making the time. This was so delightful. And I can't wait for our listeners to hear your wisdom and your stories.
It's been a blessing to spend an hour with you, Lisa.
Yeah.
It has.
So can I read something to you kind of that sums up like who we are?
Absolutely. Please do.
So, most organizations, they have a mission statement, they have a vision statement, but there's something that we came up with that I believe sums up who we are, like to the core of who we are. And it goes like this. It says, we are a group of veterans, Native Americans, and patriots that feel our veterans deserve more than they have been given. We don't have all of the answers, and we wouldn't always get them right. But we strive to do everything we can to empower veterans and their families to live their best lives in the here and now.
Love it. That sums it up. Love it. I hope other people will put in show notes how to get in touch with you guys, and hope other people will raise their hand and say, I want to be a part of this. So thank you guys for what you're doing. And I appreciate you both.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Lisa. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc. 2019. For show notes or to reach Lisa, visit tpi.co/podcast. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you listen.